And we're finally back. I know it's been quite a few months without a video, but holidays turned into burnout, turned into the family dog passing away, a million other things. So, needless to say, the channel was not my top priority. But we can talk more about that later. Let's get into today's build. You may remember, about 2 years ago, I designed these track links to replace the rubber bands that were supplied with this kit. Well, after looking at those and putting them on the tank, I thought, let's add even more detail. I really went down a rabbit hole on this one, 3D printing and designing different pieces that didn't quite look up to snuff for the reference photos that I was looking at. Now, I did get a little distracted by the research I was doing, and I made quite a big blunder with the decals. But we can get back into that when we apply the decals. But I really did get a chance to put my modeling skills to the test, creating little details out of kit parts that were supplied, as you can see here, making this canvas bag look a little bit more canvasy, filling holes where new parts were going to be placed, and just creating all sorts of fun details that the kit may have missed. Now, I would really recommend doing this, honestly, to boost your modeling skills. I know a lot of the newer kits come with far more details than you would ever need, and quite honestly get a little tedious when you get a kit with thousands of parts, as opposed to one of these older kits that maybe has a little less detail. Sometimes it's more fun to add your own. A perfect example here, I 3D printed some of these numbers that I saw again in my reference photos, and I know they're far too large now. I sanded them down after securing them. So I 3D printed them big because my 3D printer couldn't make them any smaller. And then I added them to the hull when they were nice and large and I didn't have them flying across the room. Then, once they were dried in place and secured, I just sanded them down so they fit the scale. Again, I had a blast doing it. I don't know if that's how you would do it, but I really enjoyed myself. And then I didn't want to 3D print everything. Sometimes just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I just scratch built some latches. So again, you can just see most of the things that we 3D print are just circles and squares anyway. So those scratch building skills can come in handy. And sometimes you should just go that route because it's in many ways a lot faster, especially if you don't need to make multiple parts. Here, I'm just putting on some weld beads because they're in the reference photos, and kind of fun to put these details on a tank. So I do want to get into some of the mistakes I made on this build. Coming up, you're going to see I 3D print some bits for the side skirts of the tank, and that is in direct reference to the tank I was building. If you go on Recon Monkey, you can see that the decals that are supplied with this kit would match this tank that I'm making these details for here. That is not the decals I end up putting on because of a blunder on my part and a mislabeling on Tamiya's part. But all of these little bits that you see here are directly a reference to an actual tank, not the one I end up building. But that is another example of things I probably could have scratch built, but because there were so many, I 3D printed them. And then here, I could have made this out of metal, but instead I thinned it down and bent it with my fingernails. So, there's multiple ways to tackle each one of these problems. Here are some cool kit parts that I received and spruced up the trailer. Here, I'm going to make some rivets. This is just a little piece of aluminum and a drill bit flipped around in that, set in like that. You can see you don't want to make it too far because it does push down completely, and you'd kind of lose those rivets in the eraser. It's just a standard school eraser. You can see it's well loved. And then I just punched out all of these rivets, and great little detail. I could have actually made these a little thicker. I was a little nervous on how that would work, but it does work on thicker foil as well. These are just extra photo etch parts I had. Always save your detail bits. Here, the tires for the trailer were, I felt like they probably wouldn't be so not inflated. I don't know what the term is for that, but I wanted to give them a little bit of a bulge there that you see in some of the newer kits. This worked okay. I probably, if I didn't put this in a diorama and cover most of this would look a little odd, I think. I don't know if I nailed that. But it was kind of fun. It was a fun little detail. Diorama Devil, he has a cool tutorial on how he melts those down to create a far more realistic look than I just did. But here we go. And now we're going to get into the painting. So I just primed everything in black because I have multiple different types of material, 3D printed resin, metal, and the kit parts. So really important to prime everything, obviously. And then it gives me the opportunity to have those shadows. So you can see here in the painting process, I do more of a cloudy pattern, and I don't just make everything solid green here. I use that black undercoat as a shadow, and I just don't spray the paint as thick with the airbrush. Obviously, having an airbrush is more helpful in this type of scenario. If you're not using one of those, and you're just base coating with a rattle can, it's harder to pull this off, but if you have an airbrush, I recommend that's how you paint a lot of those large flat surfaces. And then came in with the highlights. So I used a jig like that to spray some of those highlights. Putting on the incorrect decals, which, like I said, the kit comes with decals for both a crocodile, which this is a Churchill Crocodile, the exact one you can find on Recon Monkey. And then it also, for some reason and not properly labeled, comes with decals for a tank that was never fitted with a flamethrower. So I guess it's great to have those options, but it is a little confusing when the box art and everything else shows that. I just assumed both were correct, and there were cooler weathering pictures of the other vehicle, and I was my mistake. And so now this build will forever have the incorrect decals, and I bet only one or two of you would have noticed that if I didn't say it, but that's not why I'm here. Anyway, this is a 3D printed flame. I did not design this. I found this on Thingiverse, I believe. And I just modified it to fit the scale. I think this was for some sort of tabletop gaming thing. So I went with this instead of the cotton ball. I do use a little cotton ball, but I just thought this was a kind of a cooler look. And I wanted to try it, and I wanted to try it with the LED noodle. So I wired it up for all that, as you can see. I did just paint the tracks, nothing spectacular. I don't go crazy on the paint job on this because with the flame, it looks honestly not like cartoony, but I feel like if I had done some insane paint job on it and then had this, you know, orange flame sticking out of it, I feel like the contrast would have been maybe off. I don't know. I got to a point where it looked cool and I just stopped. So the decals are a little bright and poppy, but in real life, and I think on video, I think it shows better. I don't know. This was like a fun idea I had. Obviously, it's not meant to be the most realistic thing in the world, but on camera, I think it looks awesome. And it works as like a cool, like little light. And certainly a piece that gets people talking. This is pretty much standard fare for diorama building here. I got some tea leaves and some rocks and stone. Obviously the static grass is applied. That's 2 different lengths of static grass. And then painted everything in. Gave everything a nice base coat. And then start with the darker colors and work my way up to the highlights. Again, wanted to keep this really kind of like basic colors because the yellow and the green are just so like, it's yellow and it's green. And then I wanted this to be like a brown instead of it being more realistic. Again, just because I think sometimes when you see those flames on a model, it does take something away from it a little bit. And again, I think personally, this model only looks good when it's like in the dark and the light is on. It gives it a really realistic look. And when the lights are down, you really need more contrast. So again, that's why the decals, and I didn't bother chipping this model because it's not the way you're going to look at it. So kind of an interesting thought process on diorama building. If you're going to make a night light, it just doesn't need to have tons and tons of details. Honestly, too, I was just so burnt out on this. I just wanted to kind of get it over with, which is sad. But I have been building more models. I've been on a ship phase, which I don't know if anyone's interested in, but I do have some of that filmed, and I may put it on the channel. I don't know. It doesn't typically do very well not to stay in your wheelhouse, but that's what I'm doing right now. So if anyone's interested in that, you can let me know in the comments if you'd like to see it, and maybe I'll get on that. Maybe I'll sit down and do another video soon. But aside from that, I'm just kind of enjoying the hobby, kind of learning some new skills. So I have something to teach instead of just show. But other than that, thank you so much for watching another video and sticking with me. And I will definitely be back with some other stuff as soon as the inspiration hits. Other than that, have a great summer and enjoy your models.